the South African people that are indigenous to that land, hating on the Nigerians and other African tribes that come in here to get work, and they're competing for jobs. So there's a lot of infighting going on. But when you look at what's happening, is that a lot of people from the diaspora are getting tired of where they are at in the land of their captivity. They're getting hit with hurricanes, they're getting hit with earthquakes, they're getting hit with people coming in and taking over, like the Chinese taking over Jamaica, the Chinese wants the Bahamas, and all types of stuff is going on. So, here was the water, here was the door of no return, here was the transatlantic slave trade, the Bantu-speaking people. And so, jumping back to the Scythians, I'm kind of bouncing different places. Here's the Scythian territory. Here's the Black Sea, and I'm going to skip through this. So when you look at the Scythians and the Sarmatians, in the Bible it talks about Colossians 3:11, where there is neither Jew or Greek or Jew, circumcised or uncircumcised, barbarian, Scythian. Sometimes they get interchanged words, Sarmatian, slave or free, Christ is in all, and it is in all. So these are the Scythians and Sarmatian people, the people that were people with the bow and arrow, and rode on horses. They were warring people, and they went around killing folk and conquering. But they didn't get to Eastern and Western Europe at the time, but they were considered ruthless people that the Romans could not conquer and rule over. So even these people were able to be in Christ, if they're in Christ, then they have access to the kingdom. Even these guys, the Sarmatians. And you notice the Sarmatians in the Scythian territory is basically the same. Scythian, and you go back to this Sarmatians. So they lived together. And you had the Vandals, the Germanic Vandals that came in and conquered Western Europe and Eastern Europe. So when you look at the words Sumerians, Scythians, Saka, Sarmatians, Alans, Parthians are all one family. All one family from the lineage of Japheth. And when you look at Conan, Conan was also called the barbarian. And he was also a Cimmerian. Cimmerians came from this area and went down into Asia Minor. And the area of the Balkans, the Bulgars, the Slavs. We talked about Meshach and the Caucasus Mountains in Albania and Iberia, through this region right here. So now we're starting to connect all these different sons of Japheth. And they was always linked to having red hair and blonde hair. They were always fighting each other, killing, bloodshed, scalping the head, drinking wine out of the skull, out of the cranium. And so they basically said that these guys were, and this is kind of brutal, they would cut off the fingers, they would let the blood drip into a cup, they dipped their swords in it, and at the same time they put the cup into their mouth and they drunk the blood. And they also would scalp people, and they would drink the blood of the first enemy they would kill. And they would take the severed head of an enemy to their chiefs and depict it on an ornament cup. And they would also use the scalp as a napkin. And they would also flay the entire skin and use it for a display. And so these people were brutal people. And so that's why you see in Central Asia, you see people, even people in Iran with red hair. You see Jews with red hair, women with red hair. Over here, this guy has a red beard. They all have the same DNA. All have the same DNA. And they all have the maternal DNA of European people. And so when you look at different people like Claudius Ptolemy, a Greco-Roman mathematician, astronomer, geographer, astrologer, they talked about how these people were white, they were straight-haired, they were tall, well-nourished. They said that they were somewhat cold by nature, and they were savage, and they were happy because their dwelling places are continually cold. We call these men too by a general name Scythians. Today, they are the Germanic people. The British royal family, 95% of worldwide Jewry, select Europeans and select Arabs, all have ties to the same bloodline. So we look at Angela Merkel. She's the prime minister of what country? Germany. Karl Mayer von Rothschild, he's also a German. Before the time of Christ, the Gauls, aka Scythians, German barbarian people from Western Europe, Central Asia, invaded Rome, but were eventually pushed to the north-central part of Asia Minor, from which the biblical Gentile city Galatia is named after the book of Galatians. During the 1st century AD, Flavius Josephus, a Roman Gentile Jewish historian, also wrote of the Galatians or Gauls at this time and previously called them Gomerites. Gomerites, the children of Gomer. We already seen that in Ezekiel 38. So what is interesting is that Flavius Josephus links the Magogites to the Scythians, who have been linked to the Germans, the barbarians, and the European Jews. So from all this info, is Gog and Magog, or Gomer and Magog, is the war in the book of Revelation Ezekiel are going to be consisting of select European countries against the real Hebrew Israelites. So we already went to this. So this is Gaul. Yesterday a guy said France, and so you look at Gaul, the region of Western Europe, and you're looking at the area of France, you have Spain and you have France. And this is basically the map of red hair. So all the people that have red hair can be seen in this area right here. Right here. Even in this area right here, even in parts over here in Central Asia. So the Germans, the Scythians, the Jews of old were documented by historians that have red hair. You see this guy right here has red hair, this Jewish guy has red hair. And you see a lot of the Jews that say they're Levites. They have particular DNA types such as R1A1 that ties them to Central Asia. Central Asia, the same land of the Goths, the Vandals, the Barbarians, the Scythians, the Sarmatians, the Celts, the Germans. They're not really Levites, they're just standard Levites. Even when you go over to Central Asia, near the coast of China, you see people that died in these regions and they had red hair. They had red hair. This is the Tarim Basin mummies. They had Celtic tattoos on their body, and they had swastika artifacts on their clothes, and they had red hair. They were red hair Caucasian mummies. They were not Asian, they were Caucasian. Their white DNA was the same DNA that you see in Ashkenazi Jews and many of the Arabs today that you see. Hitler, Luciferians, even Admiral Richard Byrd, visiting the inner earth, according to this story, all connected the swastika to the hidden master race, as they call it. So you see here, Kohen, people that say that they're Levites, they have a high number of R1A1 DNA type, 64%. They're not really Levites. And we see here, we talk about Esau and the eagle. And so we look at Germans in all these different houses, the royal family, Western, Eastern Europe, Roman Empire. So you see 1, 2, 3, 4, Supplenburg, Luxembourg, Lorraine, Habsburg, Lorraine, Bonaparte, Hohenzollern, Nassau. These are all the different houses of the German family. And so Wilhelm II, well, his German name is Wilhelm, his English name is William. They were the last ruler emperor of the German house of Hohenzollern. He was also from the German kingdom of Prussia, but he was the eldest grandson or grandchild of the British Queen Victoria. This is her right here. Queen Victoria was the queen of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland from 1837 to her death. She was also the cousin to King Leopold, the guy that killed over 10 million Israelites in the Congo. Right here. So they're blood ties. Here you see a picture of them together. The one in the center is Kaiser Wilhelm I of Germany. Seated on his left in a chair is Queen Victoria. I think it's right here on the left side. King Leopold II of Belgium is the second man on the right. Could be these two guys are here. While the two men standing to the right next to him are Emperor of France, Joseph I of Austria, and to the right, the Tsar Alexander III. So they're all connected. They're all connected. So remember, the Edomites used the word duke. The British Roman male owning the highest hereditary title, the 5 degrees of English nobility, they're called dukes. Just like in the Bible, the Dukes of Edom. Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip rules of Great Britain and England. Queen Elizabeth II is the male line great-granddaughter of Edward VII, who inherited the crown from his mother, Queen Victoria. Edward VII's father, Queen Victoria's husband, was Albert of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha, which means Goth or German. Hence, Queen Elizabeth is the patrilineal descendant of Albert's family, the German princely house of Wettin. Prince Philip, right here, Duke of Edinburgh, is the great-great-grandson of Queen Victoria, making both Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip of England third cousins married to each other. Both are Germans. Ooh. And they rule over Africa and the Virgin Islands and Australia and Papua New Guinea. So much stuff. Now what I'm gonna skip to another part that I want you guys to see. All right. Okay. All right. So if you look at the bottom part, the people of Turkey, Turkmenistan, Khorasan, Turkmens, Afghanistan, Balkans, Iraq, Syria, a lot of the Arabs, they belong to the Oghuz family. They all come from a region known to be near the Aral Sea. Where's the Aral Sea at? The Aral Sea is right here. Right below Kazakhstan, right below Uzbekistan, and Turkmenistan. If you watch the second movie, I'll talk about Turkmenistan and the Arabs, the white Arabs. And so you see Esau's seed at some point started to travel and mix amongst the North African nations. And then he also went into Arabia, he also went into Iran, Iraq, and also up through the Caucasus region. We talked about that yesterday. And you see the black Arabs, they also went this way too because they were trying to spread Islam throughout Africa. So the black Arabs with J1, they went from over here in Arabia and went into Egypt and Sudan. That's why in Sudan today, the people that control the Sudanese government are the black Arabs. The black Arabs. Not the Dinka tribe like the Nubo and the Nuba tribe. These are the black Arabs. They speak Arabic. And they went all the way to North Africa as well. You'll see their DNA scattered amongst the white Arabs in Delusion because they had the Barbary slave trade where they had white women as their wives and they would have a lot of children with them and dilute down the skin color of the black Arabs. So you look at Esau. A lot of people say, well, Esau started off as a white man. But we know that two Nigerians can never have a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, straight-haired white child. You know, that's never going to happen in history. So Esau could have been lighter, could have been albino, could have just been a lighter-skinned black child. And here we see today, though, because you got to remember in the beginning, Esau married the children, the daughters of Canaan. And he also had a daughter of Ishmael. And then if you look at Hadad the Edomite, you'll see that he was in Egypt and he had a child with a princess of Egypt. And so, but if you look at Genesis, you'll see Duke, Zepho, you'll see Amalek. But when you go to the time of Christ, during the time of the Maccabees, you see a lot of mixing. During the time of the Greek invasion, around 250 BC, all the way to the time of Christ, mixing with the Greeks and the Romans, with the Edomites that were on the scene at the time. So things kind of diluted down a little bit for these guys, the one that mixed with other nations. So Herod, Agrippa I, this is a head bust of what he looked like. Herod, king of the Jews, was grandson of Herod the Great, the son of Aristobulus. It's a Greek name, the fourth, and Bernice. His original name was Marcus Julius Agrippa.